Hi guys, and welcome to this video where I will go into details with you about how to build a website with Lovable. So what you can be seeing here is a website that I have been building very quickly, just with a very few, you could say, questions and commands and prompts for the AI Lovable. And we have a beautiful website that is not perfect yet, but very quickly to be put together by just several clicks. So we can go through this, meet your coach, coaching services, my 3-step coaching progress, and so on. This is one example. Here are some other examples. So we can go back to go to dashboard. Here we see another one that I made rather recently about where women connect with AI. And you can also see various websites here or prototypes, websites from the community, where you can also go into more details and figure out what others have been building. And that is really great because that also helps you to better understand what is possible with the app and how to put it together. And get yourself some inspiration and see how easy it is to create with AI and especially to create with Lovable. And Lovable is the tool today that we will be using to figure out what we can be building. And you might think, this is really difficult. I don't really know how to start. I have no coding experience. All of this kind of irritates me. And I hear you, right? It's not super simple and it takes some time to go in. So I also come from the world of no coding. So I have no formal coding experience. The only thing that I did is that I have quite a lot of curiosity. And so I was always curious about exploring and figuring these things out. And so that's how I came into, you could say, programming, but also into trying different tools and giving you insights about those tools. And that's what I will be doing today as well, is that I built some websites with Lovable. And I also built several prototypes with Lovable because it's very good to also just show you the design, because the design for Lovable is way better than several other of those tools in the market. And for that reason, we will be building in real time, you could say, today, one website together with Lovable. And I will show you step by step of how this works. We will start with a more general, easy website. You see some of those websites here are a bit more complex, so they take a bit more time. But at the same time, the more you build, the better you get. And the most important part is always start. And for that reason, always start. I will show you now how you can easily start and build a website with Lovable. So let's get started. This is my Lovable, where I only have a few free credits, so I can get free credits here as well, which we might do after the video. But going to the video, we go into my Lovable, where I have a premium, which means I have 250 credits. But if you're just getting started, it's totally fine if you only have 5 daily credits, because you already get rather fast and rather far with 5 credits daily. And so if you just put yourself a limit for a week, for example, and every day you use 5 of those credits, and I show you also how you can expand that. So you actually get to a rather good result with the first 5 daily credits. So if you do it that way, then it also enhances your ability to really get your website even done maybe within the first or second day. Having said that, let's start with an example. So I created already, we need to go out here. I already created, you see, several websites that are actually not live websites, but I will put them live very soon. Some of them are live more for, like a landing page stuff. But the main part is start with a design. So there are several ways of how you can start building a website. If you're totally new and this is the very first thing that you do, I would always advise just type something in here, don't overcomplicate it, and just start. So let's say you want to build and offer those AI workshops. So I do workshops, about Lovable and about other platforms also in a live environment. So where I show you this live, and then you can just simulate. I do it now, so this is not scripted. I show you exactly how it's done, and then you have the ability to ask all of those questions. In that video, obviously, you can't ask questions, but you obviously can ask questions afterwards. But in that sense, let's say we actually want to offer those trainings, and we want to offer workshops, and we want to offer maybe also consulting about how to build websites, how to build products, technical products with AI. And so what we can say is, for example, here, I want to build a website for people to book workshops on how to build products and applications and websites and automations for themselves to be more productive in their day-to-day and for their business with AI products as non-coders. Obviously, you can adapt this as whatever you want, but this is just a very basic thing. And I show you later a different version, but this is the very first one. I would just start doing something like this. So we just click enter. And now we see what's happening is that Lovable is thinking. So this takes a bit of time, and what you will figure out that especially for the first prompt that you're doing, it will take time irrespective of how long the prompt is. So if you make like a very long prompt and get very, very specific, Lovable might not directly answer you, but at the same time, it will also take the same time of spinning up a preview. In this sense, you already see that it gives you some insights. So it says, I love this concept. A workshop booking platform for non-coders to learn AI-powered productivity tools is incredibly timely and valuable. Well, AI is rather positive often. This evokes the clean professional aesthetic of platforms like Calendar, Eventbrite, or Masterclass. Focus on learning and empowerment. So you already see that if you kind of, have a specific design in mind, you can obviously put this in. But Lovable also connects two different designs. And so what is really powerful that all of those little things that you realize, you should take into account and really describe well. So if, for example, and this means, for example, for the design, do you want to have specific colors? Do you want to have a specific structure of your website? Do you want to have specific features or maybe specific functions? Do you want to have specific buttons? So the more clear you are about how you want to have it, the better. And still, the good thing about Lovable and about all of those AI, let's say AI chat website builders is that you don't need to have it figured out completely at the beginning. You can also chat with the AI and make iterative changes. And so that's very powerful because you can just start and you can see what happens. But if you have some very specific idea in mind, then obviously you can also put this in here and Lovable will take care of it. And as you see, it takes a bit of time to load. And so sometimes, this is just the very first one. It takes time for it to build everything together, which is understandable, especially once we see it, we will see that it creates quite good results. So now we see, let's see what happened now. Normally it should show something. Now it just turned, see. Now it's still loading. So we will need to wait a bit, but we can just look here. For this first version, I create a beautiful modern website that showcases the workshop offerings and makes booking feel intuitive and exciting. I focus on hero section, highlighting the value proposition for non-coders. So hero section is the very first section. It's kind of like the hero of the website, you could say. Workshop categories, here you see exactly, like what we put in beforehand. It put this into categories, so products, applications, websites, automations. And that's always the point. Everything that you say, it kind of puts into the website. So if you just kind of, as I did, just kind of played around with the words, it puts them into categories, which might not necessarily what you want. Featured workshops with clear description, simple booking interface. Obviously, that's super important. You need booking. And that's something where I feel a lot of other website tools and builder tools fall short because you have to kind of manually put them in. And that's a very annoying process. And especially for these interconnected pieces, that's like very powerful. Trust building elements, so testimonials and structure credentials, okay. Design approach, clean modern layout, and so on. At website structure. So if we click here, actually, it's not doing it. Code. It says here is code. So if you don't like code, just ignore it and don't look at it. But what it shows you is something here. It's called build error. Cannot find name zap. So it likely created something like a zap, or it created like an icon that is a zap, and this created a problem. And so that's what it says. It says here an error. So if you're not interested in the coding or in the content of the code, you can just ignore that. And you can just only focus on the build error because these should be the ones that we need to fix. If you're interested in the application and in all the code, we can go in later and check this out too. But let's first just try to fix, because that's normally what happens. Try to fix means it doesn't show actually what it should be showing, which is surprising in the first take, because normally it always works in the first take, but there's always a first time. So if this happens, then it says build unsuccessful. And once you click on kind of, okay, let's fix this, you see that what we say is automatically given to the AI in a way to basically say, fix it. So here for the present, I get the error below. Please think step by step in order to resolve it. Error, and then you have the error that we just found beforehand. Now we see I need to fix the missing import. It fixed the missing import, and this is the very first website. I have to say I'm not really a big fan of the color. So blue and green is not my color code. And that's something you could have, for example, if you get more specific, what we will do in a second, put this in as well. So you have a specific color code, as well as that you see here, watch demo, which is totally blank or white, is obviously not helpful. But on the other hand, we could say, hey, it actually created quite a lot. And let's have a look what it created. So we first see what it actually does, because we can obviously already start to have some, like talk to ourselves and say, oh, this is not like what I want. Well, it's the very first take after we wrote 3 lines of text. So given that, I think it's quite impressive. So it says build AI-powered solutions without writing code, master the art, and so on. It has 2 buttons here. They don't work yet, but I show you how you can make them workable. And it says no coding experience required, hands-on projects, expert, and so on. Choose your learning path. These are exactly those 4 paths that we had, but the AI automatically puts the icons in, it puts the content, it puts some quick text about it. It says featured workshops. I think this looks really beautiful. It says here, beginner, book now, no-code website builder, book now, and automation workflows for business. So this makes it very smooth, very easy. And book now, obviously nothing happens because it does not do everything at once. But from a website perspective, this looks beautiful. Let's look at view all workshops. Also doesn't work, but I'll show you later how it works. We have some success stories here. This actually kind of looks very real, even though it's fake. So this is also one thing to keep in mind, that a lot of websites now, that it's so easy to build those websites, you always have to be careful, is this actually true or not? Because actually all of these images, it looks so really true that it's sometimes very difficult to figure out, okay, is this actually real, or is this just someone that built a website with AI and put this out in the wild? And you have here AI Builder Academy, and you have here all rights reserved, and those pages which are empty, but what we can fill as well. So let's work with this one and focusing on the very easy setup in the sense that you start very simple and just type in 3 lines. So what we see here is, well, I already said I don't like the design. I think like green and blue really is not my color code. So what I can say is, hey, Lovable, I really do not like the blue and green color code. Can we please make that, we can say blue and, that pink, purple, orange in warm colors. That would be nice, and the buttons can be blue and purple. Be creative here, but with more the warm colors. Okay, now let's see. I only gave the colors. I didn't even give specific colors. So what you can also do is you become way more specific again. So what you can do, there's specific color codes. It's kind of, you can say hash and then 6 numbers and letters. This makes it like more, how do you say, more specific. If you have specific colors that you want to use, especially if you have a specific brand and you say, with my brand, there come with specific colors, then you can also type in specific colors. In that sense here, we just gave those colors, and the AI will take care of the colors and turn them into the code, hopefully. So now you see it's still working, and ta-da, we have a different color set. So now you see it didn't change anything from the gradient perspective. This means of like the color, how the color shifts and changes in this block. but it makes it nicer. And you see it changed all of the coloring here. So what we can do now is to say, I don't really like this white banner here. So banner basically, it's not banner, it's like a navigation bar. So this one is basically a navigation bar. It means that there's the logo. There are like these things that you can click on. So view schedule, book now. So what we can say is, hey, can you make the navigation bar also please with the same background as the hero section. So hero section is this one that you see where we say build AI powered solutions without writing code. And so this one here, build AI powered solution without writing code. So the whole block is kind of the hero section. So you can say, hey, can you make the navigation bar also please with the same background as the hero section, and the logo font then white, as well as the navigation words like workshops about success stories white as well, and keep the buttons. So just the full background in that gradient color scheme of orange, pink, purple. So let's see if it does it. It may work, it doesn't work. So sometimes AI also doesn't work. But while it's working, one thing about Lovable, so here you see code mode and preview mode. So if we are switching here to code mode, okay, now it doesn't want to do this. So see, now it does it that way. Works perfect, but now we have all our buttons are basically white. And the book now doesn't work, but I think it looks a tiny bit better. Obviously, we can try to, connect that. You can say, hey, can you make the background kind of across all of this? So let's try if it does it, but this is something that is a bit more advanced. So sometimes the AI is not able to do it, but we can say, hey, much better. But can you make the background smooth across both your section and a navigation bar, so that there is no cut or no color gradient cut between the two, so that it is one unified background coloring. Let's see if it does it, because this requires a tiny bit more how you would say a bit more custom coding, because it basically means that we need to combine those two with a design. So let's see if it actually is able to do that. And if not, we can first just stay in that manner. See, it's not really able to do this. So let's just stay in that way and focus on the other parts. So let's focus on the view schedule and the book now. So there are some options of how we can actually solve this, but this is a bit more advanced, so we won't go into details for now. But what you can do basically is you can also move it to GitHub. You can open it in a different code environment, which then goes into a bit more technical. And you can just bring this together. Or alternatively, we can play around with Lovable later, or we can ask some other AI tools. So there are several options that we can do, or just figure out exactly what Lovable needs to know so that it actually works. So find out the words that we need to use to describe that to Lovable. But in that sense, let's move on and say, hey, the view schedule button in the navigation and the watch demo buttons in the hero section both are white with no text. Only when we click on them or hover over them, hover basically means just that we scroll over there, then we see the actual text of these buttons. View schedule and watch demo can you please make sure that it is the reverse order and the white is moved in the background, so only shows when we hover over the button, or just completely disappears so we see what is on the buttons. So let's see. I realized that some of these, especially these buttons parts, and some of the like design parts are not as easy for Lovable to change. So it's often better to just in the very first beginning make sure that this is not happening. But as said, there should be also options to change that. And so what you see here, that's a problem, like when we write, we can't just switch easily because it always switches back. But what you see here is it's writing hero.tsx. So basically what we're doing here is we can go to code mode and see exactly what I changed. So now, it's still working. So let it work and see if it actually changed the buttons. And now we see it did exactly what we asked it to do. So now view schedule watch demo is actually buttons that are visible. So that is much better. We can also at some point change the book now. So we can say, I don't like the book now design of the button. Can we do it in the same design format as the explore workshops button in the hero section? I am talking about the book now button in the navigation bar. So we can try, like to make this one similar to that one, because this is kind of really ugly, I feel. But so we see now Lovable again working on it and changing the button, hopefully that it has the same design than the Explore workshops. So we see it always says like it edited a file, it updated the Book Now button, and now we see here we have the Book Now button. It's rather big, so we could also now say, okay, we make it a bit smaller again. But in general, now we see we have these different buttons here, and it's definitely clearly visible. So now this is one thing, right? We can say beautiful website, beautiful, oh, see, we forgot one button. So here, this is the same. We can say, hey, can you also change the buttons in the footer, it's called. So this black box here is often called the footer. So basically the foot, you could say, of a website. So you could also, like imagine this one as a person. So you have a header here, which is the head, you could say, of the website. And then you have the foot, so the footer of a website. And then the hero section is kind of the head, as the hero is the person, is the face, you could say, that shows exactly what is the main part. And then you have the body of the website, and then the body is everything in between until we then end up at the foot. So now we are here at the footer. So hey, can you also change the buttons in the footer? Make the book workshop button as the book now button design, and the newsletter button like the view schedule button in the navigation bar. So this is just to make sure that we have all of the buttons in the same design, and this will also help the AI, like once we move to different pages, to keep the design in place that we have in these different buttons, so that we don't have to switch back and forth all the time. And so once we fix this here in the very beginning, it makes it easier than afterwards as well. So now we see again, it's writing into the footer. It says edited one file, updated the footer button. And now we see book a workshop and newsletter. And what we can be seeing as well is that these buttons are bigger than the other ones, so it doesn't necessarily look that good. So we could say, okay, make sure that it has the same size. But let's focus on some other things that I wanted to show you, because they're more important, so that you can also build your own websites, because that's something you can just easily ask the AI. So we have all of these buttons, right? But they're not clickable. So there are different ways of how we can make this, and different Interesting. Now it just reloaded. Okay. So we can start with our navigation bar here. So we can click on code mode. So I just show you. You don't need to totally understand, but what is helpful to understand is not the code itself, and you don't need to learn how to write the code. But if you learn to understand the code, it can help you over time to understand, okay, how is it actually structured? And there are different frameworks of how applications also collect or, like, let's say, structure their code. So it doesn't look for every product exactly the same, but for Lovable, it looks like this. And it just gives you a tiny bit of an understanding of how it does that. And over time, I will give you some more videos where I also will go into a bit more details of how this looks like. But one thing here is that what you can see is this part here, for example, and this is index. It means exactly, okay, how is our website that we had before that I said as a person structured. So you see that the header is on the top. Then you have a hero, and header is basically nothing else than this navigation bar. It's kind of heading over a person. It describes, okay, how does a person look like, for example. And then the hero is kind of the head, you could say, like this very prominent part of the website. And then you have all of the other things in there: workshop categories, featured workshops, testimonials. These are the other kind of categories, or like body parts, you could say. So, for example, this maybe might be, I don't know, the shoulder. This one might be the stomach, and this one might be the legs. And then the footer is the one that you see with this black background. This is then in the bottom. And once you have this, you can go and you can check and you can say, okay, let's look for the components. So the components are the part of the body, kind of. And you have the components, and then here you see beautifully, you have all of them there. So you have the header, you have the hero, you have the workshop categories, featured workshops, and you have the testimonials. And so that's basically all of the, you could say, the overview, right? So you could, for example, go into the header and see now this is describing how does the header look like. And again, it's very structured. And so basically this, it says here, we start with a header and then we end with a header. So this is kind of in the header, what happens in the header. And so what happens in the header is that we have return. So this is what it shows us. And it shows us here the logo. Then it shows us workshop, about, success stories. This is the header, kind of the different pages that we can click on. And then you see here it shows reschedule and book now, and these are buttons. So one button and a second button. So this is how you can, like, better understand also the code. If you're interested in the code, it helps you to better understand the structure of the website. And what you can also do, if you feel, for example, over time something is like totally wrong in one specific button, you can simply, like, copy paste, for example, this button, copy paste it, put this into Lovable and say, something is wrong with that button, fix it. So this makes it easy, and it just explains a bit, like, how this works. But we don't need to go into too much detail here. It's just for you if you're interested. But now we have, we kind of updated the footer. Now we can say, okay, let's see what happens here with this header. So in the header, workshops works perfectly. Choose your learning path. It goes through the different workshops. We can leave this right now. About, nothing happens. Success stories, we move to success stories. So we see that the about button is not doing anything. So what we need is a different page that basically tells us about a bit more about ourselves or about the AI Builder Academy. So what we can say to Lovable is, can say, hey Lovable, you don't need to write this, but I kind of find this sometimes fun. Hey Lovable, when I click on the about page, nothing happens. Can we create a new page where we have a text and an image about the AI Builder Academy and the founder, Friederike, so that's me, and talk about her journey from customer success and sales at LinkedIn, or customer success and sales, to, yeah, you can say at LinkedIn, that's fine, to playing around with no-code tools and testing over 300 plus tools to coding more deeply with AI and being a founder and entrepreneur while now offering those workshops to others so they can also tap into the power of AI for their own projects, bring them to life, and be more productive in their day to day. So obviously you can write whatever you want to. You can also use your whole LinkedIn profile and just copy paste this in. There are several options what you can do, but let's do it and click enter. And this is obviously something that can be improved. But what it does is that ideally now Lovable will create a second page, and this page will be the about page, and the about page will be the one that will then basically give us information about the AI Builder Academy as well as the founder. So this is very founder driven right now because obviously we kind of make it new, but obviously if you already have a product, you can also do this differently. Whatever you prefer, you can also say, hey, we have several trainers, or we just talk about the business and some success stories about the business and how many trainings and workshops you already gave. So, whatever comes to your mind. It's just an idea of how you can do this. And I show you then how you will have this, because what we are doing here, and this is important, so this is basically like our, you could say, landing page, our home page. It is the page that when you go to a specific website, it will be the very first one. But if we want to have an about page, what happens is that we need a different page. And so this is what you see now here on top. You have like /about. So this is it's a sub page. And now you see, okay, this image is very not really fitting necessarily, but whatever. So you say now about AI Builder Academy, empowering non-coders to harness the power of AI and transform their ideas into reality. Meet Friederike, found an AI Builder expert, former here, it directly puts some, the social improvements in their social icons and say, look, this is something that is kind of a social proof. Then the journey to mastery, corporate foundation, no-code AI pioneer, our mission. So every business owner, it even, like creative professionals, deserves to harness the power of AI. Obviously, if you don't like it, you can change it. Ready to start your AI journey, explore our workshops, and it goes back to the workshops. Now you can say, okay, this image kind of doesn't really fit. So you can say, great, thanks, love it, or whatever. Obviously, you can change whatever you want to. You can also, for example, say, okay, we want to make this clickable. I will show you in a second how it works. Great, thanks, love it. Can you change the image next to meet Friederike a bit more tech and coding and fun related, so not necessarily on a bad, but more in a professional social setting with a group of people together coding and enjoying it and brainstorming. So you can put whatever you want, but what I like about Lovable is that you can actually just do that. And what you sometimes feel with websites, putting in images, it's very time consuming. So if you can automatically input the images and even change those images, it makes it just way more, it just improves it a lot, and it takes and it saves you a lot of time. So now it's working. Hopefully it comes up with a bit of a better image. Okay, this is, I don't like that neither. Great, but can you actually share the faces of people and not just computers? What you can also do is, if you have an image, you can actually import this image and put this in here. That's another option how you can even make exactly the image you want to. But I kind of find this a bit tedious, so I only do this if I really don't get any outcome here after trying this 2-3 times. Then I would go and create an AI image, more focused one, and then input that one here into this website. well, this really doesn't make sense and not a good image. So we end up with that. So what I would be doing is I go to Google Whisk, enter tool. So this is an AI tool. Welcome to Whisk. It kind of does this all the time. Can you create an image for a workshop for people creating and building and programming with AI together? Make it modern, fresh, social. Let's see what comes up. So this is something, like when this really doesn't work, we can try that. It's actually the first time I try it in real with Whisk images. I first did it with some other images. But, we can say maybe this one is nice. We download this here, the Whisk one. We say here, we put this into our images, add to photos. We go back here, we say, no, can we actually just copy paste this in? Let's see. History, knowledge, project set, attach. And then we go to our images, photos. We have the photo here. Can you use that image or a similar one for the image of next to Friederike? Meet Friederike in the About page. Let's see if that works. So we just need a different image because that's really ugly and I think it doesn't really reflect anything that we want. So you see, which shows a vibrant tech workspace with people collaborating on AI and coding projects. There are some other options of how you can create images. Let's see if this one now gets us the result. But what you see is it's a lot about trying different perspectives, trying different images, trying different routes. So if one is not working, you try a different one. If this now also won't work, then we will try another one. But now you see this is much better. It's actually the image that we created. We obviously can play around with it, but this one is way more accurate and actually kind of the image that we used and gave the Lovable. So now we have the journey of mastery, mission, and so on. So now let's focus on here again the header. So we see if we click on AI Builder Academy, it goes back here to our main page. Workshops now works, about works, and no, about does not work, workshop or about works, and success stories. See, here's some kind of error in there. AI Builder Academy, workshops, about, and then success story is not working anymore. So we can say we realized a wrong clicking behavior and user journey behavior when we are in the main page and click on workshops. This works. Success stories works, but when we click on about, we end up in the middle of the about page instead of at the hero section. And when we are in the about page, we cannot click on success stories anymore. It stays blank, it stays non-clickable and nothing changes. Can you make sure that this is cleaned up and actually works in a way that the navigation bar header always stays constant and is clearly clickable irrespective on which part of the website or page we are on. So this is a clickable behavior, and what might happen is because we asked about the AI to make this background, how do you say this, which should actually not happen, but make the background, like across both, that maybe it also destroyed something about the click behavior. And that obviously should not happen. So you see Lovable says, I can see the navigation issues you're experiencing. The problem is that some links are using hash anchors, which works on the main page, but not on other pages. And the about link scrolls to the middle because it's trying to find an anchor that doesn't exist. So that's exactly what it does. So if we go here, we click on workshops, it's used basically an anchor. That means we just click on that part of the website, but not on a different page. So if we go to about, it stays here, and success stories, it kind of goes back. So let's test this again, because we tested this while it was working. So let me fix the header component, so we can click on the code and we see like what it changed. So this now is becoming a bit more technical, because this basically says, okay, we have the different locations here. So when we're on the home page, then it manages the different, like workshops click and testimonials clicks. And so I'm not sure. Okay, it did some other changes. Okay, let's see how and if this solved the issue. I'm not 100% sure, but let's see. So workshops works, success stories here works. If we go to the about page, we end up here. So in the about page, we click on workshops, we end up at workshops. So we click on the about page, we click on success stories, and we are back in success stories. Okay, so this works. It's a bit slow, but it might be also because we are here in this directory. So if this kind of stays slow, we have to adapt this a tiny bit more and make sure that it's a bit more of a smoother process. But now we have the view schedule and the book now. So we can say, now we need a schedule for the schedule view for the workshops. So how can we best do that? I want to have an overview of all the workshops that are available right now, and users should be able to see that. So basically the same button as the view all workshops button that shows all workshops in a separate page for users then to click on and book. So now let's see. So this will likely be another page. So this is very broad how I wrote it, as you can see, but sometimes you can also let Lovable basically create it for you. So you give it some, you could say, creativity, or you give it some more room to explore and to figure this out by itself. And so for that reason, that's what I sometimes like to do, especially now, like that we're just playing around. If you have a very clear understanding of how you want to have it, you say exactly how you want to have it. You say, okay, I have these two buttons. These two buttons need to go into a new page. This page is a workshops page. In this workshops page, I want to have exactly the featured workshops plus some more workshops in the same format. Please show me like 6 different workshops, for example, and the latest 6 different workshops. So that's what you're doing then. You're just waiting. One thing, and this is something that we do in a different workshop, in a different video, is that what we have here, it's hard-coded, which basically means that this is in the code. So build your first AI chatbot, no-code website builder, automation workflows for business. This is all in your code. And what this means is that it's not connected to any kind of database yet. So you have to kind of put this all in manually, which is totally fine if you only have 6 pages, because you don't need to overkill the whole thing. But obviously we can later automate this in a way that it makes it even more easy for you to type in all this information, as well as that it also makes it easier for you to then better have all of the history of all the workshops that you ever kind of offered. So now I've created a comprehensive workshop schedule system with a dedicated workshops page. So now let's see this, view schedule. Okay, this is ugly. build your first chatbot, available dates. So we could say, that's actually not that bad, but it can be looking way better because this is with available dates. We can say, okay, interesting. We can say, but this is really not nice to look at, right? Because it's confusing. So we can say, but let's see, view schedule. We go to workshops. We go back to the main page. We see view all workshops. This goes in the same workshop. You see the buttons have a bit of a different design. So I said there needs to be some improvements here. We can say I want, when clicking on the workshops button in the header, I also want it to navigate to this workshops page. So we first fix this, so we have everything links directly to this page, but then we definitely need to change this page because this is, from a user perspective, like really not good. I mean, obviously you can say, like you click here, but you don't see the dates. It's chaotic. It's like a lot of white space. No one needs that space. So it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. So it's nicely made, right? Book now, book now, book now. It also doesn't work to book, obviously, yet. But this is just ugly, in my opinion. Obviously, you might disagree, you might like it. But now let's click on workshops, go back to our main page, click on workshops, and we see we are now in the workshops page. About takes a tiny bit more longer, so we need to figure out why. So in the workshops page, we can now say, okay, thanks for the workshops page, but I do not like the design. Is there a way to have it in grid style? So grid basically means grid style, yes, and not list style, instead of list style. And when clicking on the workshop, we see all the dates available to book, maybe with a pop-up, or pop-up is kind of something pops up with a pop-up, or by, you can say like a card that moves around, or a new toggle below that opens and shows all the dates. I think I like the last most, but leave it to your creativity to make it smooth and super smooth and a great user experience. So this is something, as said, this is very creative, right? So I give it a lot of space and a lot of options to play around. Again, you can make this more specific. Again, you can here in this page make a lot of changes. There's a lot of ways to improve this. This is just some ideas for you to also understand, like what potentially is possible. It's also the way that what is also, something, for example, you could have a search bar. You could say, okay, let's search that. Let's give people the opportunity to search whatever it is, You could also say, okay, let's make a list, but make the list in the sense that we just see all the dates, which likely makes more sense, because why would you need even, like these boxes with different workshops? You could just have a list and then a list by date. You could also say, okay, there are different options. So maybe one is a list just by dates. Another one is a list by workshops plus the dates. The next is a list by locations, for example, if they're like remote locations and in-person locations. So there are various parts of where we can play around with, and we can do this later. But now you already see this is much better and much more clean. And just by that, with like one more understanding, okay, how I want to have it, it already looks much better. So what we can do now is popular, build your first AI chatbot, view available dates. Okay, this is not super beautiful, but it does its job, I think, and it gives exactly what people might be looking for. So here, view available dates, December, and so on, and then book now, and we can click it again. So you can say, okay, build your first AI chatbot. What are the available dates? And I can pick one. The same with the no-code website builder here, automation workflows for business, e-commerce store setup, advanced AI content creation masterclass, and you're good to go. So now we can, just for fun, let's do this and create like a bar where we can say great and much better view. Can we do a search and tab bar at the top of that grid of, you could say, grid of workshops, and call this view the grid view or workshop view, or by workshop, then another view by, we could say, another view by, how do we say this, by workshop, then another view by dates, make it a list view, and another view by location, remote or New York or else. And the search bar where users can search by text. So let's see if it works. This is obviously now going more into the advanced section, but at the same time, it still shouldn't be that difficult, because so far we have not done any kind of business logic, you could say. And so far, the only thing that it is actually just talking to the AI. And so we see that now Lovable is working. It takes a bit more time, so it's working a tiny bit longer, and at writing those workshops. And you can see writing workshops. So it says, I'll add a search bar and tabs to provide different views of the workshops by workshop, grid, by date, list, and by location. So I didn't give any specifics about the by location, because I actually also didn't know exactly like what might be the best version. So I just leave it to AI to figure this out, which is always, like a good way, because if you're just not sure, just leave it open and it will do something. And then if you don't like it, you can just change it. So now we say writing workshops.tsx. And now we are just waiting for the AI to come up with it. And you can see it takes a tiny bit more time, because it needs a bit more consideration and it needs a bit more kind of putting this together. So what we will be also realizing is that later on, as said, we can also put this into Supabase. So this is one of the next videos where I will show you how we can have this in an actual database, and then also how you can easily input all of this information. So you don't even need to go into your own code, because obviously this is a bit of a tedious work, and ideally you want to connect it. So this is what we will be doing afterwards. But now let's first see what it did, and if this actually improves the experience, or if this is just not really working how we want it. So we see now, okay, this is beautiful, but it's not beautiful in the sense because it basically goes up like the very first thing is that I would like to have by workshops on the left-hand side and the search bar on the right-hand side. So it's actually in one bar. But on the other hand, let's just first check if it actually does what we want. So by workshop, it works. By date, look at this. It looks now much nicer. So people can just directly see, obviously the dates are totally wrong, but we have here December 15th, December 16th, December 18th, and so on. So it shows all of those dates, which is very helpful if you, for example, would even like to have the dates in a different order, which doesn't make sense here, but you could easily do this too. So if here, build your first AI chatbot, it gives you the time. It says online, beginner, how many spots left, and book now. And then by location, it says New York, online, and so on. Maybe not as smooth, especially because if we click on this one here, New York, nothing works, and it doesn't open like anything else. So this is not by location something that works really well. So this definitely needs improvement. So that's something that we could be working on later. By date, by workshop, but these by workshop and by date work very smoothly. We have here the available dates and so on, and we have the search bar. So we say, for example, take one of the ones that's not directly visible. So e-commerce store. So we put on e-commerce and we see it shows up. E-commerce does not show up. So this is something here it shows up in that sense. It doesn't show up in that sense. The point is that the search bar so far is not AI generated. It's not doing any kind of fuzzy matching. So there are various kind of algorithms and various things that we can put into the search bar to make it more, how you could say, I don't know what happened here, but let's quickly go to workshops. There are specific ways of how to make the search bar like more effective, but that's obviously then something that comes afterwards that we can input as here. But what we can do is then leave it like this right now, so you know the idea. Next time we can say make it like one bar. But we have one thing here that comes up and that I want to show you. So it says like I've enhanced the workshops page with a comprehensive search and filtering system. The new features include these tabs, smooth transitions, and so on. It says refactor workshops. And basically refactor workshops is a good idea because it says it makes the page and puts this into smaller files. And the main reason for that is that some of these files become super large. And files means code files. So workshops.tsx. So we can click on here, and I showed you before we have those components. And now we don't even only have the components, but we also have pages. And pages are the different pages of the application. And these pages can be have different components. So we saw the index page has these components, header, hero, and so on. The workshops page is just a very long page that gives us all of the information about the workshops. And right now, this is hard-coded. So basically, you see here an example of a workshop. So it lists all of those workshops, the dates, and so on. And for that reason, in general, you see it's a rather 395-line long page. So if this is something that you don't like because you think it's too long, and especially Lovable doesn't like it because it's not so easy to work with it anymore from an AI perspective, then you can shorten it up here. And so this is what it does. Lovable automatically takes this refactor workshops and makes it shorter. So it will break it now into different components likely, so that it's easier to enhance and easier to work with for the future. So this is something I would always advise you to do, because otherwise, if you're not doing it, at some point the AI will become a bit slower and not as effective anymore as if you would actually do that. So it just takes a bit of time and then it enhances that. So this is the refactoring, and I will show you one more thing because we stopped this video, and this is here now workshops card. So basically I show you one more thing in a second. Here we have now the workshops TSX file, and that's exactly what it did. You see this here. I've successfully refactored the workshops TSX file into smaller focused components. You have a workshop card, handles individual workshop card display with collapsible dates. So this is this one here. Search and tabs TSX manages the search function and tab navigation. So this is this. So now you also know, like if you want to make changes there, this is the thing that you call. This is the thing that you maybe even ask Lovable and say, hey, the search and tabs TSX in the workshops page, there's something that I don't like. I want to have it in one line and not in 2 lines. And please change this. Workshops by date, this will be then this. And workshops by location, this is this. And then workshops, which is the main page. If you go now into the code and we go to the pages here and we go to workshops, then we see that it kind of imports, this is what it does, it imports all of those different components, these search and tabs, workshops, cards, and so on. Then this is like the data. And then you can see constant workshops. But then later on here in the return section, you have the header, and then you have the different sections. So you have one section, search and tabs, and then the tabs, and then here workshops by location, workshops by date. So it kind of puts it together. And if we go to the components, here we now have search and tabs component, workshops card, workshops category, workshops by date, and workshops by location. Workshops categories is the main part, but so workshops by date, workshops by location. So you have here now all of those different kind of components, and in that sense, it's easy. It's kind of splitted to make it more readable. So let's go back to page, and I'll show you one more thing, and this is Book Now. So obviously book now in that sense is something where we actually have to put a booking in. So we do this the next time. But let me see if I can show you something. Let's do the contact us, because I want to show you one thing of how you can connect actually like an email, because then you can really directly start with Lovable and everything else is a more advanced thing. So if we click on contact us, nothing happens. But what if we want the user, for example, write an email to us to the contact us page? So what we can say ask Lovable for the footer link, contact us. Can you please allow for the user to write us an email? So can you say mail to, so this is mail to, and then we put my email in and we say this. You can obviously use whatever kind of email you want. But so what it does now is that whenever the user clicks on contact us, they will basically, their own email program will open and then they can send an email. Obviously in a contact us form, ideally, we also allow for just a form to be filled out by a user. And then this form will automatically say, thank you for your information. We will contact you soon. But this is more advanced. This is what we will do later. So for this reason, this is the contact us footer here. So we go into the code and what we see is this is what it changed. So let's quickly highlight this. This is what it changed. So it basically say, this is what it takes away. This is what it does. It says mail to your email. So you can put in your own email here. But what it does is if we go back, now we click on contact us. Now it opens an email program here and to my email. So it automatically basically, don't save, it automatically connects you to that. So you can easily say contact us. What you can also do, and this is one last thing, if you click on newsletter, there are way more beautiful ways to do this. But if you say, hey, I just want to link to a newsletter page where they can then sign up, you can say, when clicking on the newsletter, can you newsletter button in the footer, can you make sure to direct the user in a new window, in a new tab. Tab is good because otherwise it completely they get out of your website in the same tab and you don't want that. So ideally you just say in a new tab and redirect them to my newsletter page. So I have a newsletter and I just quickly open this. So news at New York Tech AI Plus, it's currently called. So what we can do is we just go back to Lovable and we say this website here. And this is the beauty, you can use whatever kind of website. Obviously, as I said, there are some more beautiful ways of doing this. So for example, a pop-up, someone clicks on a newsletter, pop-up appears, they can put the email address in, they click enter, and it automatically is connected to a newsletter application that you have. As said, we do this in one of the next videos. This is just an easy way. So if you're feeling, hey, like I really want to do this rather quickly, then and start and have something workable already, then this is what we can be doing. And this is an easy way. So now if we click on newsletter, we will be redirected to that page and then people here can sign up for the newsletter. So this was it, a very first introduction to Lovable of how you can build websites with Lovable. You see here the website, you can explore workshops. Later we do more of exploring the workshops, watching the demos and so on. You see features, workshops, and with that, have a great day and happy working with Lovable.